I'd like to introduce Chuck Norris, and he's not going to do any kung fu or any of that kind of stuff on us, but he is going to tell us a little bit about Kaizen Collision. He's in the auto repair industry, so Chris, I'm sorry, not Chuck. I got that when I started with my joke. I blew it. So Chris Norris.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is obviously Chris Norris. So I'm going to stop for just 1 second, right? In about 30 seconds, your phones are going to light up and you're going to have one new friend. My hopes for this is to have, 150 or 200 new friends. So anyway, it's okay. My dad always told me, he said, son, surround yourself by good people and good things will happen. He never told me what happens when you surround yourself by great people. This is tough. So, let's have some fun. My name is Chris Norris, and I am not to be confused with this guy. Although Chuck does live in California. I am from Missouri. Chuck has 5 kids. He's obviously a decent producer. I only have 3. He's been married for 21 years. I've been married for almost 30 to that beautiful lady over there. So, he is good looking and kicks butt. Wait a minute. We do have something in common. That being said, the thing that I do have in relationship with the Chuck Norris, right, to be an expert at martial arts or collision repair or process improvement or 5S, you have to have desire, discipline, and you have to be willing to fail and fail a lot. So, I come from the other side of the tracks. I have always been in the automotive industry my entire life. And you're thinking, okay, Teiichi Ono, the Toyota way. Well, it's the different side of the tracks is where I come from. I put cars back together for a living, right? My job was to return vehicles back to pre-loss condition and to protect the lives that we put back in those vehicles. So, at an early age, I got a job at my best friend's shop. Mom and Dad owned a shop, little body shop in Independence, Missouri. I started there washing cars and pushing brooms and doing it, right? I was intrigued by all the stuff that was going on, painting cars and putting them back together. Over time, I was able to get in there and work with the guys. Whenever I had a chance, I would take off and go down and help the body men or go down and help the painters. And I was able to train and become a body man, and I was good. It was something that came very natural to me. It was like taking an intricate puzzle, ripping it apart or getting it in pieces, and then not even having all the pieces to put it back together. So I worked there on and off for about 10 years, learning the craft and learning it well. I ceilinged out, and I wanted to get into the office. I wanted to grow, and I couldn't. Right? It was mom and dad and the son and me, and there was no room for me to grow. So I took off and went to a dealership. And so as I went to the dealership, I figured I would just run it the way I'd learned, right? I was good with my hands, and I could work with customers. I could calm them down if they had a problem with their car. All I had to learn was the insurance side and the number side. It was easy, right? So I took off, managing the way I'd been managed. Motivation by carrot and stick, fear and control, my way or the highway. Any of you that have been around the car world, the last day of the month is the only day that matters. The only day. They live in 30-day cycles. So that's the way we did. And to take it one step further, I took it upon myself to be the head problem solver. I would take them all on, whether it was repaving the dealership parking lot, finding the car keys, helping the porter the bodyman, the painter, the receptionist, the insurance guy, the customer in the parking lot. I took each one of those problems on as my own. And this picture represents that. I was so frustrated one day. These guys are all standing there, hey Chris, hey Chris, hey Chris. And I had built this culture. And I was like, stop. I got to have a picture. Poof, I took a picture and they were all laughing because they thought it was funny. But, you know, I knew that I had to do something about that, right? The shop was small when I started. I had grown it into this decent sized shop, and it was kind of out of control. And it was one of those situations where the company wanted to expand. And the only way that we could expand was they wanted to bring the body shop along too. And then they're like, you know, Chris, we'll build you a bigger shop, more cars, more area. It'll be easy, right? But when you do that, the cost goes up and you need the sales to go up to make it work. Well, we took off when we did that. It had plateaued and it wouldn't grow and it wouldn't grow and it wouldn't grow, right? We added more cars to the system. We added more stress to the system, and it didn't work. So what do you do when it doesn't work? You sign up for a 3-day course, actually out here in California. This was in 2009. This was Greenbelt. This Greenbelt class was put on by PPG. The idea was that if they could, PPG was the company that sold us the paint, if they could get you to a point to where you could produce more cars per day, they could sell you more paint. I'm in, sign me up. I flew out to California, went to this 3-day class. I was hooked. It was like being here today. Like, I can't wait to get home. So they warned us. They warned us in the end. They said, Chris, whatever you do not go home and blow up your shop. You will implode everything. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I devised a plan on the airplane on the way home. And when I got home, I was like, I don't want to bother all the technicians because, you know, they're busy and, you know, I'll just do this myself because I'll get it done the way I wanted it done. And so I striped up the shop. I had these big signs made, put these new rack systems in. And then on that Monday, I crammed it down their throat. And there was so much pushback that there was the meeting after the meeting, you know, the one that you don't get invited to. It's horrible. So after that failure, I decided to go to the internet, and I stumbled across this guy, Mr. Akers. I read the book and watched the videos. I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh. What are we going to do? I knew that I couldn't just go back the next week and shove these books down their throat and say, you're going to do lean. I had to find a different way. So I had to learn how to bargain. So I bargained with the guys and showed them what I'd found and tried to lead into this a little slower. And finally, they agreed to read a couple of chapters a week to understand the 8 waste, right? I was starting to get a grasp of it. They had no clue. So this was a tough sale. So that being said, the leadership side of this thing is absolutely the hardest part. Anybody familiar with Brene Brown? A little bit. So the deal is you can either spend a reasonable amount of time addressing fears and concerns or unreasonable amount of time managing behaviors. I didn't understand that. A lot of the stuff that we go through with people trying to get them to buy in is this fear, right? They don't want to change. If they do, what's it going to impact? For my guys, these guys were commission based, which means they got paid for every car they fixed. If they stopped and they tried this new way, how was I going to fix that, right? How do you want me to do this and not do it and make less money? How can that be? I'm like, all right, so fair enough. I went to upper management and said, hey, let me guarantee their wages for 90 days. And that allowed me to push on the change and let them breathe a little bit. So fear was a big one, right? I had fear as well, right? So all that stuff earlier about answering all the questions and doing all the things I did was fear-based, right? If I let other people learn what I know, if I give up those secrets, then I could lose my job, right? The dealership world, it's not uncommon for them to dump people. Oh, that guy's too much money, we'll get rid of him. So you hang on to these things and you do this. And so what this did for me is it taught people in my department those same things, right? The painters wouldn't teach the polishers because they were helpers how to paint cars because of what? Fear. That guy will take my job. I finally let all that go. And even taught the painters the same thing. I said, you have to teach, right? The way I finally got to the point and accepted it, right? There was a switch in my mindset that I was going to give up on the control, and I was going to share everything, and it was like somebody flipped a switch. I let the guys take over. I let them to have a lot more input on what needed to happen. I let them help on the changes. We were able to start up on morning meetings, and it was great. You know, we started to make serious improvements, more buy-in with everybody, less having the meetings after the meetings, and things were good. We had to learn to grow the people and let them step up and shine. You know, for me, being this kind of ego-driven boss in the beginning, I had to learn to step back and actually let them shine and let them grow. And you know, whether that meant losing my job, you know, that's fine, whatever. So it worked. I taught these guys accountability. So I don't know how many of you guys have ever been in a deal where, hey, can you go talk to Johnny? Because he's kind of acting up. I need you to get this handled. I'm like, how is that my responsibility? So we had to teach him, right? And you think about what happens as we go through school, you know, whether it's high school or college. Once you get out, your social skills decline. Anybody got parents that live by themselves? Anybody? Yeah? What happens with those parents? My mom said to me the other day, I can say anything I want to. I'm 75 years old. I'm like, Mom, you can't. But they sit in a room by themselves and they lose the skills, right? Everything that we do is about skills. But the same thing happens to our employees, right? The last skills that they've learned, social skills and all that, is high school and college, and they get to work and they just kind of let that stuff go. And then all of a sudden, it's everybody else's problem, not theirs. So we worked on that really hard, and this is what we did. So we stole this, right, fair and square. But this is 4 steps to a direct conversation, right? Protect your self-image. Hey, you're okay. Take responsibility. I feel like, you know, you're taking advantage of me. Win. Be direct. Say exactly what needs to be said. Be very clear. And then collaborate. What can I do to help? Right? So the other thing that we did was we worked on no triangulation and the 24-hour rule. Anybody know what either one of those are? Well, the no triangulation means that I can't go to you and bitch about Joe. I got to go straight to Joe and say, Joe, I've got a problem. Now, the 24-hour rule is a rule that means you've got 24 hours to cool down and address the problem, or you got to let it go, right? If you need 24 hours to cool off, that's fine. But within 24 hours, this needs to be handled. This has worked awesome. It has helped people to grow. I've seen some amazing things in the people that I've taught this to, right? I'm in one of 5 departments at the dealership I'm at, and because of this training, I had 2 girls that didn't get along at all, and the one actually called the girl back over and apologized as sincerely as can be. The other girl almost didn't believe it. I actually had to find her the next day and say, hey, I didn't instigate that. But it worked. And this gal, yeah, it's a great stuff. So, here we go. Lean's even bled over into my home life.
Today's 2-second improvement is making chimichangas using one-piece flow.
Doing one-piece flow, we've already made one improvement. I was loading the meat onto the tortilla and then giving that to Lisa to build. And now what we found, because it takes me a minute to get the right amount of meat out of the bowl, when Lisa's ready, she'll grab the next one. And then that way We made one improvement. So we've already made one improvement to our process. Funny part about that, I think I heard Paul say something about it Friday. He says, how did you get that at home? For any of you guys that have gone home and like tried to turn the house upside down and make it lean, you have to be very careful. I had to really sell that. But I got to the house and she had tortillas laying everywhere, and I'm like, whoa, there's a better way. Let me show you. And I gather them all up, and that's where you learn your negotiation skills, is at home. All right, so the last part is the mindset. My mindset had changed. Anybody that's ever read Carol Dweck's book, The Mindset, it talks about having a fixed mindset versus, growth mindset, thank you. So, fixed mindset says your characteristics are carved in stone and they can never change. And I see that with some of the stories and stuff, like, it's tough. I lived in that world for a long time. I felt like I had to prove myself over and over, and I had to judge or be judged. It wasn't until I really got into the leadership stuff, started to let go of the control. I started reading like crazy. I probably hadn't read a book until, honestly, Paul Akers' book was the one I started with. It's his fault, wherever he's at. That changed my life and opened up my mind for growth. When I was a body technician, I felt at that point in my life that I would always be a body technician. I could never get, up to the next level. And then I got to the next level, and as a manager, I was like, I can never get to the next level. That's not true. So anyway. All right, so the thing I want to share with you is about being a champion. This is from Theodore Roosevelt's speech from 1910 in Paris, France. And I believe this speaks to us as a group. So, it's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who can strive to actually do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best in the end knows the triumph of high achievement, and at the worst, if he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. We talked about that a little earlier today, about failing and keep daring. So, thank you for all of you letting me be here, and I think it's up to us as leaders to continuously challenge the people that are younger than us, and even the people that aren't younger than us, to grow and push on them. Every one of you guys are pushing ropes, and I'm proud of you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. So, questions for Chris? Any questions? Scam video. No questions.
Easy.
You got away with murder.
Oh.
Nathan.
Nathan from Fireblast. So when you found out when you read Paul's book, what was the first thing you thought about lean?
The 8 waste was probably, he spelled that out so very simple. Going through the Greenbelt training with PPG, they just touched on a few things, 5S and the really basic stuff. Paul's book was very, very clear, and it was very easy to get through. And that was easy to share and do, especially as the audio stuff and all that stuff come out on, the guys that didn't want to read it and deal with it, they could listen to it while they were working. Very, very, very clear, very to the point. Yes, sir.
This is Hugh from Springfield Marine. And where are you in Missouri, and can we come visit?
We are in Lee Summit, Missouri, right outside of Kansas City, and yes, I would love that. Love to come visit as well.
Any other questions?
You gotta go to Shanghai to visit his place.
I'll go.
All right, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So,